Welcome, everybody, to the Milton Public Library Trustees meeting, March 10th. We have a quorum, so I'll call the meeting to order. Next on our list is citizen speak. We do have a visitor tonight. Sean Bentley is joining us. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you, Jim.
Any other words before we move on? Don't have them.
No, I don't have anything to report. Thank you all for having me. Yes, I'm looking forward to watching this meeting in person. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. All right, moving on to the secretary's report. Looking to discuss in a motion to approve the secretary's minutes for our meeting on January 13th.
I'll move to make that motion.
John's moved. Chris, did you second?
Yep, I'll second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to item 4, report of the building committee. Turn it over to you, Chris. Is there a quick update on the parking?
I don't have any updates since our last meeting, so.
Excellent report.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to number 5, budget and finance, report on the fiscal 26 budget. Any updates, Will?
So I don't have any solid updates to provide on the budget process. I know a lot of people are kind of following along with the school committee meetings, the select board meetings. An override will be on the ballot for April, but I don't know yet what that dollar amount is going to be. I had a meeting with Brian McGuire from the warrant committee this morning. He is in charge of the library subcommittee. He's new to the warrant committee. We met for a little over an hour going through the budget. He asked a lot of good questions, but he was new to the process, so I explained state aid and the municipal appropriation requirement and the materials expenditure requirement. So there was a little bit of re-education on some of those points. He did not have any insights to share as far as what the funding situation looked like. That being said, the last time I spoke with the town administrator, who is still waiting for guidance from the select board, he is preparing alternate budgets for if the override passes, if the override doesn't pass, etc. And in one of those conversations, he had mentioned that one of the drafts, most of the departments were looking at about a 3% reduction. And so I based an impact statement based on about a 3% reduction in library funding, which would be about $70,000. Now, this may have changed for other departments, so I can't speak to what the actual numbers are going to be. I haven't gotten any new numbers from Nick Milano, but I did prepare an impact statement that I haven't shared out except for with the trustees. I did have a conversation with Nick outlining what some of the considerations would be, and they're not too unusual from what we've talked about in previous years, and thankfully we haven't had to do this in a long time. I talked with Nick Milano and the town accountant, Amy Dexter, about the pros and cons of cutting people versus times as far as impact on the community. They felt very strongly that while in many departments cutting people causes an outcry, for the library cutting hours causes a larger outcry. Regardless, if we cut people, we'd have to probably cut hours. But this impact statement to get to the about $70,000 would look at the elimination of Sunday hours, which is 24 days during the calendar year. The elimination of summer Saturdays, which is 8 weeks during the calendar year, and then reduction to the books and material budget. The three of those together come really close to about $70,000.
And the reduction in books takes us below the state.
The reduction in books would take us below the state minimum, and so we would explain, I have this, that could put us in jeopardy of losing $70,000 in state aid in fiscal '26. We know that we may be able to make up for that through the foundation or through friends donations, but at the time of the budget approval, we would be below the state minimum requirements for that. So that's what I am proposing would be reductions if we need to make or propose reductions in an impact statement. There are other ways to do it. I mean, if we are cutting these hours on the weekends, there's a potential to save some money in the electricity budget. However, anybody who's paid heat and electric bills this winter knows that that's going up, not going down. So I think maybe I'd put a $10,000 reduction, but maybe a $5,000 reduction would be more realistic. We'd use a little bit less water and sewer. So I mean, we could kind of take pennies away here and there, but for significance, summer Saturdays, Sundays, the alternative is a part-time library assistant, which is 25,000. We'd still then have to cut either Saturdays or Sundays as well. And then that would leave us short many nights and other shifts throughout the work week. These hours that I'm suggesting are all overtime or differential hours, so they're paid at a premium. So it wouldn't have a direct impact. It would have an impact on staff earnings, but not their base salary. Yes, is what I would say. So that's what I'm presenting as potential. Again, I just want to be prepared for when and if the select board or the town administrator comes to us with, you're going to have a cut and this is what it might be. We went into this process thinking if we went to an override, it might be an opportunity to expand services, but it sounds like it's just an opportunity to maintain services. So
the alternatives you have highlighted on this page replace.
They wouldn't completely replace the front page. It's on this 2-page sheet. It's just alternatives if you would want to consider an employee versus Sunday hours or versus books or materials.
And in this case, it would be a part-time library assistant.
That's right. And so just so we know what that impact would look like.
Yes, please.
So again, the part-timers fill in a lot of the nights and the weekends, so it might be reducing one of the nights of the week that we're open.
That's its impact to the nights open. That's what I was getting to.
Yeah, so that would be an impact to nights open, but also it would more than likely be after bumping and moving around, it would potentially lead to us no longer having a part-time. Right now, we have a part-time library assistant who's in the teen room every afternoon, so that we're able to offer teen programming every afternoon. That position would likely be the one that would go away. So we'd have a reduction in teen programming without a reduction in teens and demand for it. So it could have a pretty significant trickle-down effect if we do that. Because Andrea's been here now for about 1.5 years. And either Tyler leaves the room to do some programming or she's doing programming in the teen room. She does crafting programs in there. So yeah, I think that would be pretty detrimental to teen services.
I agree.
Yeah.
Anybody else have questions?
I don't see any hands raised online.
Are you looking for direction from us at this point, or?
No, I'm looking, I guess, for support that if this is where we're going. I just want us to be prepared as a board for if there's gonna be cuts, I wanted to get this work done, and if there were people, Chris is giving a thumbs up. If this was totally objectionable, I would go back to the drawing board.
I have a thumbs up because I can't find, there's raise a hand. I'm raising a hand.
Okay, go. Sorry.
I'm just wondering if any one of the trustees is going to the select board meeting to try to talk to the budget and how it relates to the library. I think the meeting is tomorrow night, right?
So I've been talking to Nick Milano about this. Because every couple of weeks he'll tell me, be prepared to come to the select board meeting, and then he'll tell me not to come to the select board meeting because they're still just talking about the schools. He has planned for the library, DPW, and one or two other departments to come present impact statements. But he has not indicated that tomorrow night's the night for those impact statements, but I've been saying that we're ready to do it whenever they're gonna get to our parts of the budget. It doesn't mean they won't go out of order and do it tomorrow night on their own.
Right. I just know they're looking for a lot of people to come and speak to the impact of the size of the override. Regardless of whether we've been specifically invited or not, so.
This is tomorrow night's meeting?
I think it's tomorrow night, so I think they're just trying to get people, citizens concerned about the override and the size of the override and the impact that it could have, and it sounds, I'm not sure if they're gonna calculate the amount or they're just gonna pick some amount and then fit into it or not, or give each budget, this one's a 3%, this one's stay as is, or it doesn't seem like there's a real formula for how they're doing it right now.
I can confirm that I don't know that there's any formula for what they're doing right now.
Right.
Either.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I do know the warrant committee's meeting tonight too, and I don't know if that if they're gonna report out tomorrow night to the select board.
Okay.
Yeah, they could be.
All right, but this is your statement here in the package, right, Will? So.
Yeah, that's my draft statement for when and if they ask, and this is kind of starting around a 3% reduction.
Yep, okay.
Let me know, Will, when I can go with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on that before we move on? Capital request, John, any update?
Yeah, the capital improvement committee, we're gonna finalize it Wednesday, but it looks like we're gonna get our generators finally gonna
Excellent.
be part of the recommended package. We'll see how that gets, as it gets buffeted by all these other requests, but so far. And Richard Wells spoke very strongly in favor, as did Nick Milano, so it looks like it finally might make it.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too.
Awesome. That's good news. Yeah. I mean, how long has it been?
About 3 years.
At least 3 years.
The process.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Well, I mean, the big surprise this year was the renovation of Cunningham.
Oh, yeah.
The third, because it was. They approved 2.5 million last year, and now we're approving 3 million more, so. And then, that the fire station, that, I mean, and, the possibility of a new school has sucked up a lot of
Right.
capital, so.
All right.
So,
And I think we lost power twice, whatever the week was that you had that conversation. So, and then people who were at town meeting. Well, the library was affected the same night that town meeting lost power. And then the next day, they must have been working on something because we lost power like 3 times that day.
Wow.
It was like only a minute, but it's still.
Okay. Any other questions for John? In your packet was the quarterly treasurer's report. Anybody have any questions for either Will or Michael?
Just so people see, there's one of the documents is a check ledger from the checks that have been written out for the last 6 months to a year almost now. And then the other document is a more full report from Bartholomew than their regular monthly report. It's a quarterly report. The Rockland Trust statement hasn't come yet, so that I wasn't able to include it.
Very good.
Make a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
Looking for a second online.
Second.
Michael, second.
Thank you, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right, moving on to Personnel Committee. Quick update on Personnel Committee. About 3 weeks ago, the annual survey went out. We currently do not have any results, but we'll have results for the May meeting.
That's the plan. Paul compiled the survey based on previous years, added and subtracted a little bit, and he has the access to the back end of that and the results. So he'll share that with me once it's finalized, and I'll put it into some sort of package.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I can't find my hand. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I don't know if any of the other trustees have taken the survey, but I noticed a problem with it. So I suggest that you all take it. At least if we're not taking it, we can't be expecting the public to take it. But there's a mistake in it that I reported to Will, which is that there's a question about the pandemic in it. So, and
I was hoping that was.
I had several times when I had to go through it several times, and I'd get like 2 pages in, and it would pop up and say, I don't know, I forgot what it said, but it would set me back a page, and then I have to retype the second page again, and then I'd go to the second page and the third page, and then it would throw out the third page and tell me to start again. Or it was acting very weird. I don't know what that was, but definitely somebody else should notice the question in there. So hopefully everyone's responding and encouraging people to respond.
I know one of the friends took it really early on and then mentioned the thing about the pandemic, and I shared that with Paul. So I think there's still a way for him to change it while it's live, but he had to go away last minute for the weekend, which is why he's not here, but I'll catch up with him tomorrow.
Yep. Thank you, Will.
Thank you, Will. All right, a nominating committee. Chris, any update there or?
We're trying to schedule a meeting, a little challenging, and I was waiting to get Mike, I guess, confirmed that he's running before we had a final meeting. But so we haven't met yet, but I'm hoping to do that in the next week or two. And then we'll report, I think, just back on the May town meeting. You usually meet like
Yes.
before the town meeting. Is that okay?
That's
Yes.
the plan.
That's the plan. We'll schedule it to meet at the high school before town meeting.
Okay, all right. We should have something by then, so.
Number 8 is Personnel Committee again. We did that already, unless you want to talk about it again. Other committee reports.
I'll just say one other thing is that the Equity and Inclusion Subcommittee is meeting
March 20th.
March 20th in the morning. We're gonna start planning the open house for 2025 at that point. So
That was actually one of my questions. Thank you.
Was PM. Glad you said AM. I thought it didn't say AM.
I will
I would
confirm.
think.
It's always been in the morning.
Okay.
Just to confirm, the Thursday after Labor Day?
We don't have a date. That is part of the meeting.
Right.
But I think,
Here comes Harrison.
okay. Think that was I think that's what we said. Of course, I'll try to look that up and back, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
What was on there?
I'd just like to welcome Hyacinth to the meeting. Nice to see you.
We have
Nice to see
some
you.
people online, just so you know, it's
Yeah.
Michael, Sindhu, and Chris are online. We're gonna find this. Let's see. No, I'm not. Jamie sent out an attachment. There it is. September 4th is what the preliminary date is, but it could be the 11th. So we don't, we're looking at those days right now.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, number 10, the library director's report. Well, over to you. I'll
Um,
actually give you 10 minutes.
yeah, seriously? Let's see what I can do. Where am I? So. Just wanted to mention a few things, since last we met. One was gonna be the warrant committee. Joined, or a warrant committee member joined me this morning, but I mentioned that earlier. The other thing I want to mention is that we had, two really successful speaker programs since last we met. In February, we had Dennis Lehane. We had about 400 of his cousins in the attendance that night. It definitely felt like everybody knew him. I thought that was an exceptionally good program in that Courtney Sullivan joined us and emceed it and had a conversation. I think we could have listened to her ask him questions for an hour and a half. They had a good rapport. We were really fortunate. And Dennis was excellent. And I don't know if I reported at the last meeting or if word's gotten around, but Dennis donated back the entirety of his speaker's fee to the library. So not only was he excellent, he gave a great pitch for libraries too at the event.
Great pitch.
A great pitch for libraries because they really saved him as a kid. And he also gave back the money for the speaker's fee. So that was great. And then last Thursday at Pierce, we hosted Grace Lynn, who's a children's author from Western Mass. She writes picture books, but also storybooks for elementary school ages and a little bit up above that. She's an author and an illustrator. I also thought she was great because she got the audience involved. We had about 100 kids, families at that event. She talked about how an idea becomes a book. It was like the old school, how a bill becomes a law. One kid was the art director and one kid was the editor and somebody was the printer and somebody was, all the different steps it takes. And she was really good. And she did a little bit of reading. Not only did we have a great Milton audience, but people came from other communities to come see her. And Dennis Lehane had the longest autograph line I'd seen, but hers took the longest. She spent a lot of time with everybody, a lot of pictures being taken with her. And there's a gardening group at Pierce that met with her beforehand because she also has a gardening related book. And so they read it together and then had a picture taken with her. So those were both really good speaker events and a good way to spread news about the library. A couple of other building related things. We finally finished the technology upgrades in the story hour room. These were funded by the foundation. They now have a screen and a projector and new sound system for whether they want to have music, show movies in there instead of going all the way downstairs. There's also a hookup so they can have play the Switch video games in there. They've already been using it. That was put in by Oakers, who did the keys room as well. Town-wise, the DEI committee since last we met, did a number of open houses at the police station, the fire station, the library, DPW, and town hall, kind of trying to reintroduce DEI to town employees, but also try to get a baseline of people's not just DEI, but also sense of belonging within the community and sense of belonging within their department. So there's a group of about 6 of us that are working on that for the town. Winter town meeting, we can get to a little bit later on.
Excuse me, Will. I think the last speaker, the children's speaker that we had, promoted DEI.
She did promote DEI as well. Yeah, it was one of the more diverse audiences we've had for a program like that too. which was great.
Mhm.
I've been in contact with DPW about reinstalling some little free libraries that need a little bit of help. We're gonna wait till the spring when things are little bit, weather's works better and the ground's a little softer. On the statewide level, we've had new bills introduced in the State House for this session on the ebook bill. I've also been invited to a summit that's going to be taking place in Connecticut in May about the national agenda for ebook pricing. Myself and a couple other Massachusetts people will be there, as well as people from many states. We're just trying to see if we can take local efforts nationally and put more pressure on publishers to offer fairer pricing for ebooks. But the legislation in Massachusetts is sponsored by Representative Brian Murray and Senator Paul Feeney. We have a number of freedom to read legislation bills. Again, there's two main ones, one introduced by Senator Sear and one in similar language introduced by Representative Moran. And we're working with all of these legislators on potential briefings and hearings. The freedom to read legislation is anti-censorship legislation. There has been a bill introduced in the House from the Cape. It's a citizen's petition. It's not sponsored by a legislator, but it's a citizen's petition that would call for more censorship. So we're also fighting that bill. We talking to legislators, they don't think that'll go anywhere because it's not even sponsored by an actual legislator. It was introduced by one, but not sponsored by
It
one.
won't go anywhere. Never, those never go anywhere.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, it was, I can't remember who it is, but it's I think it was Yarmouth or Falmouth was the rep. And we're already working with the committee members who are going to be reviewing that legislation. So
Will, do you know what committee they went to?
they go to tourism, arts, and culture.
Mhm.
The committee. And that used to be chaired by Rep. Dom, and I guess it's a new chair this year. I think it's still Senator Mark, is it Paul Mark? In
For
the
the Senate side,
And the House side is somebody, Sean Garbely, I think.
right. Yeah.
So that's who we'll be working with on that legislation. We're also working with the Mass Board of Library Commissioners to see that they're funded adequately. This year, we received $70,000 in state aid. We want that budget level or increase, so we continue to receive the $70,000 in state aid. So hopefully that will go on. How am I over my 10 minutes yet?
Yeah. Any update on writing residents?
Yes, so the writer, I have the good news and the bad news on the writer in residence. The good news is like every program that Calvin Hennick has offered has basically been full. He's been doing writing workshops that have been full, and he's done other side projects that have been full. He wants to do more than we're going to let him do because we don't want him to overextend himself as a writer in residence. The bad news is somehow I got roped into doing a program with him in April on writing. Yeah, I'm not a writer. It's writing. I don't even know what our title is exactly yet, but it's basically it's like writing from nostalgia, and it's along this trend of we're getting boxes of baseball cards from the unopened boxes of baseball cards from like the 80s or 90s. And kind of like passing them out, opening up, and that using that as an example of how things bring. Listen, the way these programs happen, I don't know. You gonna come? No. So that's a program that Calvin's like, all right, let's do this. I'm like, I'll try not to.
You'll be great, Will.
I'll try not to slow him down.
You'll be great.
But he did a program 2 weekends ago with his son, which was great. That was more a comic book based one, so that was really good. Briefly, I'm running the OCL and ILS task force, which is as exciting as it sounds. We're reviewing whether to continue using workflows, which is the thing that checks in and out the books. It does more than that. We're reviewing other options for OCL to use. I'm also on the assessment task force. That's important to us because that's how much money each community has to give towards OCLN. We've used different formulas over the years. Some of it's based on usage, some of it's based on the size of the town, some of it's based on an EQV, which is the lottery formula for how they give out lottery funds. So it's trying to figure out what works best. I have a meeting on that tomorrow. And then I'll mention, I went last week to the Mass School Library Association Conference, which was, I was a fish out of water. I went there to speak about all this legislation that we have because we worked with the Mass School Library Association on it. But it was also an opportunity for me to talk to people about the kind of the similarities and differences between public libraries and public schools. But what I'm getting to is we have introduced these bills for freedom to read legislation. And like, you know, we've been very fortunate not to receive too much difficulty or challenge here at the public library, but we know the public schools in Milton have seen that, have seen challenges and seen pushback on some of the books that are in the public schools and some of that curriculum. So often the public schools see it before the public libraries, but it also showed that we've been talking internally that we want to be more supportive of our public schools, especially Josh Coben, who's the elementary school level librarian, who's faced most of the pushback. So it was good to interact with school librarians. And I'll finally say that we're getting ready to roll out Patron Point, which is going to be the automated process by which when people sign up for library cards, we will send them an email welcome. And then a week later, an email, this is what we have to offer, and come to the bookshop, that kind of thing. So that's going to be kind of a step towards a welcoming package that we're working on. Other than that, all the stats and the figures are in the packet, but it was a monster month for digital. Digital just keeps growing. I thought it would slow down or level off, but it's been growing with over almost 4,300 ebooks last month. So, and a lot of digital use, but I wanted to highlight some of the things that aren't in the numbers. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Any questions for Will?
No, just when are we going to get the bathrooms done?
We have the bathrooms cleaned multiple times a month
No,
now.
we want to have them upgraded rather. You know, they need upgrading and then get the rooms all painted up.
We've had them painted 2 years ago. We painted them, but we're trying to make a more of a concerted effort on cleaning them. That's why we have an outside company cleaning them now, and not the cleaners.
Yeah.
And
Good.
we could talk about replacing some of the fixtures in it too.
Yeah.
So we do have an outside cleaner coming in?
Well, so we have an outside cleaner specifically for the bathrooms called Citron. And then we've been working with, it's not Service Pro, but it sounds like Service Pro. And probably what's going to be a 4-step cleaning of the whole library, like a deep clean. One will be stairwells and one will be carpeted areas, but it's going to be a multi-level project. Yeah.
And how often does the outside one come in?
For the Citron, they come in at least once a month, if not twice. Yeah, and they monitor all the public restrooms. They do deep cleans. Not
These are deep cleans, not, they don't get regularly cleaned daily.
the cleaners are here every day.
Okay.
They don't get deep cleaned by the cleaners. They get deep cleaned by Citron.
That's it from.
I mentioned that to the warrant committee member I spoke to this morning about the cleaning of the library and that it is
Good.
inadequate.
Thank you.
So he's aware of that. I said the Consolidated Facilities does a good job of doing their thing, but the cleaning contract leaves something to be desired. Yeah.
And then, of course, we're still in the building and grounds, and we're working on getting the
The
urns
right.
refurbished.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Any other questions for Will?
I don't know, because we haven't done any artwork for a long time. And everything seems in good standing. And of course, you did get the insurance updated
Right,
on them,
we did.
so we don't have to worry about that. But I think perhaps we should start looking to get something a little bit more,
Okay,
you know,
more art.
art, yeah. Thank you.
So, well, you did your 10 and 11 together.
Yes, yes, I did.
Communications, the next steps with the library partners. Paul's not here, but do you need you any update?
Paul spoke at Dennis Lehane. I spoke on behalf of the foundation at Grace Lynn. They sent out a letter to previous donors from the last 2 or 3 years, just saying thank you. It was not a direct solicitation message. It was, this is what we've been doing with your money. Oh, if you want to give money here, you can. So they just did that in the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Other businesses, anybody have anything else to bring up? Very good. All right, on to our policy review. We've been looking at 2 policies during each meeting. And our first one is exhibits and displays.
The exhibit and display policy is for primarily the use of the Wotees Gallery on the first floor. We just wanted to review this one. There's the only change is I took out places where things were mentioned twice. So there are things mentioned on the first page, which is the actual application page, that are then listed further on in the actual policy. So I just removed those from the application page. It was, other than that, we didn't see. And I should say for both of the policies we're looking at tonight, Sarah and myself review them, and then whatever staff members might have anything to do with them. In this case, Jean Filati had the most impact on the exhibit and display. She also looked at the meeting room, as did Sally, as did Sally Lawler, Tori Fisk for children's, and Diane Dunn as well for technology. But anyway.
Any questions on the exhibits and display policy? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
We'll make that motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Hyacinth. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right, our second one, meeting room use policy, is a little bit more changes to that one based on the winter town meeting and the passing of alcohol on town property, in town building, sorry, not property.
In town, right, exactly. So there are a couple changes. I'll highlight them. This policy got changed a little bit more. It's about timing, pricing, and alcohol. So currently, the policy says that meetings must adjourn 15 minutes prior to the library's closing. We say that, and then people don't finish until 5 minutes beforehand. So we want to move it back to a half an hour before the library closes, and then expect them hopefully to be done by quarter of, because on a night when there's only 4 or maybe 5 staff members working, going down and getting people to move along can be a challenge. So that's one. Another update is just saying that we have smart screens now. A couple I'll go through. So in bullet number 6 is where we update to 30 minutes. Bullet number 16, we add language saying that sometimes we will cancel a meeting room or not allow it due to building and parking concerns. We added and parking concerns because sometimes if we have one program, we know the parking lot will be full, so we don't want to offer a second program. We already do that, it's just not in the policy. Bullet 18 adds from 15 to 30 minutes. Bullet 19 adds that we have smart screens now, and just changes the language about arranging for staff to train, which we do now. Bullet 20 updates that we have speakers and a microphone because it's not mentioned elsewhere. Pricing, I'm suggesting that we increase the keys room pricing from 75 to 125, and the conference room from 50 to 75. We haven't increased these in 6 or 7 years. It's still very inexpensive. When we looked at using the Pierce or the Milton High School auditorium, it's several $100s.
Can you review, we don't charge everyone, do we?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Jim. The local nonprofit, I mean, we charge maybe 20 people a year tops. It's not a huge money maker for the library because we don't charge town boards or committees. We don't charge local nonprofits. So like Boy Scouts could use it, the softball committee could use it.
Milton nonprofit.
Milton nonprofits, yeah. So the people who, some school committees can use it. People who sometimes rent it would be realtors for realtor meetings, a hospital occasionally for off-site meetings. Yeah, so it's not a huge, but we wanted to get closer to what actual going price is. And because it does take staff time sometimes to set up, break down the room and to train people how to use the equipment. So it's still lower than prices charged elsewhere in Milton. It's closer to what's being charged by other libraries. So that's the pricing piece. 25 just says that we only advertise for library programs, not somebody who's renting the rooms programs. And then we come to bullet 36. And I'll read this for those online who might not have it in front of them. This is the alcohol one. So it would be adding a bullet that says the use of alcoholic beverages is restricted to library sponsored programs, events, and events sponsored by the Friends of the Library or Milton Library Foundation. Exceptions may be requested and the decision will be made by the library trustees. Second bullet, upon approval from the library trustees, the individual group must request a 1-day liquor license from the select board and must obtain requisite amounts of insurance and indemnify the town and must provide tips certified bartenders. That second bullet language is taken from the town meeting article that was approved. And the first part of the first bullet agrees with the town meeting article and that the trustees must approve it as well as the select board. And it outlines the majority or the reason, or the majority of the times that alcoholic beverages would be allowed or would be requested would be a couple times a year for library sponsored programming. So it sets the expectations, and that's just my suggested language there.
So the article referenced the trustees and to approve.
Yes.
Violating the spirit of this, the trustees or their designee.
We could put that in.
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, I was gonna put that in the policy, or you could do that as like a separate vote or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care, but it just seems to me that.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. You should, yeah, you wouldn't have to see every single one that we're gonna be like.
Well, and plus the delay in time.
Be delayed.
Right, okay, I could add, and the decision will be made by the library at the end of the first bullet, but made by the library trustees or their designee.
Guess who are.
Yeah, I'm wondering. That makes a lot of
That
practical
makes
sense.
total sense to me as well.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Will?
You would also have to add upon approval from the library trustees or their
Designee, yes,
There's 2 places. Thanks.
all right.
If there's no other questions, I'll take a motion with those changes that were just made.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other business before we move on to future meetings?
We appear to have lost Chris.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
Only gonna stay for so long. All right. April is committee meetings. our next meeting will be prior to town meeting in May, on May sixth at the high school. Will let us know a couple days before which room we're in. And then our next scheduled meeting is May 12th, depending on how long town meeting goes.
So before you run off, there are 36 confirmed articles for town meeting right now,
Mhm.
with 4 potential additional articles. And then 1, 2, 3, 7 that are zoning bylaws that might be pushed off. So,
To October.
yeah, so I mean, you're talking minimum 36, potentially 40. Worst case scenario, 47. Sorry, I don't want to scare you,
You know,
but
it's normal.
Yeah.
Very good. And items for the May meeting will be the building committee and the finance committee.
right. And I think now, I might add equity and inclusion because.
Please do.
Yeah,
Please do. All right.
so, equity committee. Great,
Do you need to add personnel committee as well?
I put that in my notes, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda.
With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor?
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks,
Thanks.
Cindy.
Thanks, Cindy.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.